Hello, everybody, and welcome to another live stream. It's going to be exciting. I'm probably going to get in some kind of trouble over this. But I have a theory. I left my speaker on. That was smart. So I thought with the news of the Red Sonja casting and the Superman details, I thought this would be a good time to analyze a little bit what I think Hollywood's up to. Because it's my live stream and it's all about me then. So, hello, everybody. Hello, James. Hello, Evolved Potato. And hello, Charming Cthulhu. I don't know if you guys are all still here, but hi. It's good to see you. And hopefully you are having a lovely day or evening, depending on where you are, whatever. You know what I mean. So I'm a little tired. This may be a giant disorganized mess, but bear with me. I think you'll get the key ideas of what's going on. Hi, baby doll. How you doing? Long time no see. So let's talk about first what is going on with these new castings. Red Sonja cast Hannah John Kamen to star in the Sword and Sorcery feature. I briefly discussed this on Friday, but I want to kind of go over two articles again. This is the lady that played Ghost in Ant-Man and the Wasp, and she's being cast as Red Sonja. Notice a distinct lack of red hair, and she has a weird receding hairline or a giant forehead. I'm not sure which. But she's not a redhead, and it's very difficult to say this without getting in trouble. Hey, Born, how you doing? But you'll notice very clearly European woman with red hair and this lady here. And that seems to have become a trend in Hollywood. Well, some people and will, so I might get myself in trouble over this. But this is not a unique thing. For example, the new Superman movie. This one I think is also from the Hollywood Reporter. Yeah. Hollywood Reporter is a trade magazine. They do really reliable reporting. They're looking for a black Superman, but they're not using the comic book Black Superman. This is actually going to be Clark Kent Kal-El. And it's being written by Ta-Nehisi Coates, who has said some pretty controversial things about white people and first responders in the past. So what is with this need for race and sometimes gender swapping, and how prevalent is this? And is this really just a callback to old Hollywood, or is it something else? So let's get right into it. I don't know how long the stream's going, for the record, because I've just got a few things I want to cover. So if you can't stay, I understand, but this probably only be about an hour long. Okay, so thankfully, our friends over at Bounding Into Comics, great website, have put together a list of every redhead that has been replaced. Now, redheads are a particularly popular group of disproportionately altered people, and redheads are an extreme minority in comics and in real life as well. Hey, Ginger. So the fact that replacing a minority with another minority is a little weird, but I don't think that's entirely unintentional. So let's take a look at this list that these guys have and see if we can add any others. This is going to load really slow, apparently. All right, that's going to be annoying. My internet's acting up, so I'm sorry if this gets disrupted. Just kind of bear with me. So number one, we've got Cyclone. And here's Cyclone from the comics. This is from Justice Society of America, issue 3. Great book, by the way. And in the Black Adam film that was just announced, Maxine Hunkel, aka Cyclone, will be played by Quintessa here. Huh. Okay. This girl is now going to be black. So, all right. Well, here we can see Mr. Terrific. This is actually the second Mr. Terrific. The original was a guy in the 30s and 40s who was white, but this is the second Mr. Terrific. So technically not a race swap, but a new character who was inspired by the original. Then we've got Hawk Girl, who has actually been racial swapped a couple times now. The CW did that on both Arrow and Legends of Tomorrow, where she was played by actress Sierra Renee. And they later did that in the comics as well. But yeah, she was a white chick, and originally she had black hair and then became a redhead later. But she was a redhead for a very long time. Then Iris West. Oh, look, another redhead. And played by a black girl. So you can't talk about this without getting in trouble for some reason. And then we've got Jimmy Olsen. Now, we're not counting his Man of Steel appearance where he was in for like 10 seconds and you didn't even know it was really Jimmy Olsen. But he was race swapped with Mehcad Brooks in Supergirl. And that's a bit of a difference there. And then Wally West, of course, Kid Flash, who went on to become the Flash in 1987. Well, in the CW show, he looks significantly different. Oh, so then what do we do? We got Starfire. She's actually an orange person with red hair. She's an alien. But they replaced her with this lady. This costume is a significant upgrade from her weird hooker outfit, though. And that's the HBO Max show Titans. Actress Anna Diop? I don't know how to pronounce that. But she's an okay actress, just a terrible casting choice. Batwoman, I'm not going to give them this one. The red hair in this one's more of a wig, and she's kind of an albino. She has super white skin. This is actually a new character that they just introduced in the comics that will be taking over from Barbara Gordon as Batgirl, but they did replace Kate Kane with a black woman for whatever PC nonsense reason. I think this one's a bit of a tenuous one, though. April O'Neil, in the cartoon, she was a redhead. In the original comic, she actually was a brunette. And they tried to say that the comic character was actually black, but she wasn't. She just had a perm. The hooker lady, yeah, exactly. And then in the most recent cartoons, they replaced her with a young black girl with a magic baseball bat that she probably stole from Mage, the hero discovered. So here's how April originally looked. She had more brunette hair. This was in black and white at the time. But still, they swapped the cartoon look. And the cartoon did inspire the Archie series to make her a redhead as well. So that's a bit lazy. Electro, often overlooked as a redhead, replaced with Jamie Foxx. So not only did you do a racial swap, you swapped him with a terrible actor who can't act his way out of a paper bag. Jamie Foxx is just garbage. And that movie was trash, by the way. So yeah, so here you can see he's a redhead. Amazing Spider-Man issue 9. Commissioner James Gordon. In the Batman movie, he's being played by Jeffrey Wright, who's a good actor and will do a fine job, I'm sure. But still, adding on to the evidence here. Commissioner Gordon originally had gray hair because he's an old dude. He's like in his 40s, and in 1938 that was super old. Yeah, Evolve. They gotta change things because can't have no evil blondes. Hemdall from Thor, the guardian of the cosmic overpass. They had to change him because he's a Norse guy, and he was played by the great actor Idris Elba in the movies. Not a lot of black Norsemen. I'm sorry to break that to you, Hollywood. That's just not a real thing that happens in real life. Bo from She-Ra, Princess of Power. Very redheaded and masculine guy. Look at that. Strong muscles. Now replaced with this, I don't know, 10-year-old black kid with purple hair and weird sideburns. Why does everybody have the side of their head cut? But they all have like the neo-Nazi haircuts. I don't understand that. Ariel from The Little Mermaid. Not technically a comic character, but still an interesting Hollywood issue here. Race swapped with this girl. And this legend comes out of Europe. So, again, a little weird. Then Josie from Josie and the Pussycats. And Josie gets played by Alicia Murray in Riverdale. So he went from another redhead to another black girl. Isaac, race swapped in Netflix's Castlevania anime series, where the character was voiced by some guy whose name I'm not even going to try and pronounce. Ripcord from G.I. Joe. This was a great issue, by the way. Race swapped with one of the worst Wayans brothers in the movie Rise of Cobra, which was horrible. Hey, Gorbag. Hey, Louie. Danish, yes. Thank you, Louie. Hey, Viking. Scored some classic 60s Marvel Conan. Oh, Marvel Conan was great. Nice work. No, Josie's not a hot redhead anymore. Nope. We're not even talking about the Josie and the Pussycats movie with Rosario Dawson, which was actually not that bad of a movie. Here's Ripcord in G.I. Joe Renegades. He got a really good tan somewhere along the line. Flash Thompson, the quintessential high school bully that ends up becoming transformed over the years into a hero. It was replaced by this nerdy-looking brown dude. I think he's Indian or Pakistani. So Flash Thompson went from a white bully dude to being a neebish little nerd. Mary Jane Watson, this one's a little bit reaching because they swapped hot Mary Jane for bitter, angry Zendaya. Michelle Jones. It's a different character, but I think we all know that they were kind of going to play the audience like this is the real MJ. Oh, that Marvel Conan What If was great. I have a copy of that somewhere. Really banged up one. Like Zendaya, she's an okay actress, I guess, but she's another one of those people that really jumps all over the social justice train, so it's not surprising that she would do this. Lana Lang. This has actually been done a couple times. She was an old fling from the old days of Superman. And you'll remember that in Smallville, she was played by the very attractive Kristen Kruk, who I think went a little nutso, but that's just my take. She was really hot. But again, now it's an Asian girl this time. That's a rare one. You usually don't see Asians playing these race swap parts. Then we've got Alicia Masters, the blind love of the Thing, who was played by Kerry Washington in the movie. That's the Human Torch, not Captain America. And in the animated Fantastic Four World's Greatest Heroes, she was also race swapped, voiced by Sunita Prasad. Yep, so no love for that redhead. Little Orphan Annie, often overlooked one. Weird kid with no irises and a shock of red hair. I always found her creepy. She was race swapped in the 2014 live action adaptation by this girl's name I can't pronounce. Yeah, Polly can get upset. Yeah, I don't even think that actress is on this list. Cecile Horton, another redhead, portrayed by Danielle Nicolette. Now, this is a third string character, but still rather interesting that they couldn't even let a tertiary character be played. Hellboy, portrayed by Sasha Lane. Again, that's a little weird. It's getting weird. The numbers are adding up here. Artemis, famous colleague of Wonder Woman's, sometimes nemesis, portrayed by Ann Wolfe. Looks very different. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't remember Greece having a very large black population back in their prime there. Or Sparta or any of those other places that would have spawned or inspired Wonder Woman. Seems a little weird. Note the red hair here on Artemis. I think that's Nubia back there. Nubia at least was created as a black character. Fire Fist, redhead. Oh, look, redhead up killing people. They don't have the picture of the kid. Fire Fist was the bad guy in Deadpool 2, kind of. It was played by the little fat kid. Hey, Jedi Ghost Bear, how you doing? Now, one that didn't make the list is apparently they're race swapping Tim Drake as well. But Tim Drake has black hair. So why are they doing this? This is very interesting. Well, I have a theory that this is actually a new take on old Hollywood. They're doing the same thing they did in the past. They're just updating it to replace white people. So not only is it a hand-me-down mantle, so they're saying, all right, well, you're not good enough for new characters. We got to give you these crappy old mantles. And, you could be a substitute, a fill-in. And that's the type of thing that Hollywood's done before. Yeah, I need content, James. But it just kind of pissed me off again with the Red Sonja casting because they can't even throw the fans a bone. They have to inject their lazy politics into everything. I'm really bored, guys. But I think this is actually something that Hollywood's been doing for a very long time that we've all known about. It's just a new form of blackface. And this, oh, wait, that's Justin Trudeau, the Prime Minister of Canada. Sorry. In 1965, they did this with Laurence Olivier in Othello. Othello was he described as a dark-skinned character, and they just slapped on some bad makeup. This is really bad makeup, by the way. They did this with Mickey Rooney as Mr. Yoshi in the 1961 version of Breakfast at Tiffany's. Look at that caricature crap. This is Sidney Toler in Dangerous Money playing Charlie Chan, an Asian man. Katharine Hepburn in Dragon Seed, which was 1944. Dangerous Money was 1946, by the way. This is Katharine Hepburn playing an Asian woman. We can't forget John Wayne in The Conqueror playing Genghis Khan in 1956. Genghis Khan's Asian. Babes in Arms was 1939 with Mickey Rooney again and Judy Garland. And Judy Garland in minstrel blackface. Now we go back a little further and we got Swing Time with Fred Astaire in 1936. These are just random examples I pulled up. I found these in less than 10 minutes. Yeah, the Django was originally an Italian spaghetti western as well. Yep, very good call, Louis. Now, at least they didn't go full blackface here with the caricature lips, which kind of surprises me, actually. Fred Astaire committed to the bit. And here we have The Mask of Fu Manchu from 1932 with Boris Karloff. Karloff did this a couple of times. And now I'm not even getting into examples like the controversy over the towns of Wen Chiang and Doctor Who, or It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia with Lethal Weapon 5, where they did it as a joke. Here's Warren Oland from, let's see, when was this one? Warren Oland, Charlie Chan Carries On from 1931. Warren Oland is, of course, a white guy. Now, an Asian guy did play Charlie Chan in the first two Charlie Chan things, that first two appearances cinematically. One was a serial, and then there was a movie. The first time it was an actual Japanese guy, and the second time was a Korean guy. After that, they just used white actors. And his nephew was played by an Asian guy. But this all goes back to Birth of a Nation in 1915. And I think this is really where Hollywood started this crap, because a bunch of white guys playing black guys as savages really kind of goes back in time quite a bit. Now, this movie was allegedly screened at the White House by then President Woodrow Wilson, that he called it like electricity in a bottle or lightning in a bottle. It made a ton of money. D.W. Griffith was huge at the time, and this was the longest movie of its era, coming in at 13 movie reels and what was it, about 193 minutes if you saw the uncut version. There were edited versions that were 133 minutes. Its budget was $100,000, and its box office is estimated at about $50 million. Yeah, The Seven Faces of Dr. Lao. There are thousands of examples out there. But most notably, if you really look at it, aside from the minstrel stuff, like The Jazz Singer with Al Jolson, which was the blackface of its time, was more minstrel stuff. That was kind of a niche market. Most of the replacements you're going to find are Asians. And nobody really talks about that. You can see that with not Peter Cushing, the guy that played Count Dooku. It's 4:50 in the morning. He played an Asian man before, and Tom Baker, who played the Fourth Doctor, in one of the Sinbad movies, he played a Middle Eastern wizard. So this is going on in Hollywood for quite a long time. Yeah, Tony Randall played an Asian guy. Lucy Liu playing a white woman in Charlie's Angels remake. Yeah, Jazz Singer was the first alleged talkie. There was another movie that kind of did something similar just before that, but it's not considered talkie. Oh, thank you, Gorbag, for the donation. Back is killing me, can't sleep, half drunk, bored. Thank you for giving me something to listen to. I may say things in chat, not for the PG-13 crowd. Yeah, man, just don't get the channel in trouble. I'm doing just fine on my own. Tom Baker's the best doctor, hands down, Gorbag. Yeah, Christopher Lee. Sorry. Thank you. So yeah, I have a real problem with it's been going on for old Hollywood, and the fact they're just replacing redheads is just the flavor of the day. And I don't know if people realize that they're being played like this. Uh, the most offensive thing, I think, is that they're not using new characters. They're just giving people hand me downs as lazy pandering. But it's not a new thing. They've been keeping out people for a long time, and Hollywood targeting redheads the way they are is just the latest thing. That they used to keep Asians out, and if you wanted to film a scene in a movie like Swing Time, for example, with uh, black crowds, better example would be pretty much any black musician at the time. But all of his movie appearances, his band had to be filmed on their own. They couldn't be filmed with the white actors. So all his scenes were filmed without white actors in the building. And I think we're going to see that kind of segregation coming back in Hollywood. We're already kind of seeing that in colleges and that sort of thing. Never say anything to hurt your channel, but I get a little cussy with the buzz. No worries about the swearing. I don't care about that. Oh, is my mic cutting out? I'm sorry. I can't control my garbage internet. Hollywood does hate the Irish. They hate the Irish quite a bit. You know, redheads used to be thought to be witches because there's such a minority that it's not even common in a lot of places where you find minorities. Like Polish people have redheads, Irish people, Scottish people have redheads, but they're really not a large percentage of the population. So, like in Poland and places, they were thought to be witches. So replacing marginalized people like this is pretty disgusting of Hollywood to do, and it's very disturbing that there are so many examples because this isn't even a comprehensive list of race swapped characters. I'm just looking at the redheads right now. Oh, the Lawrence Fishburne version of Othello was amazing. That's my favorite film version of Othello, hands down. I think they will start ignoring a lot of rules because they're going to push to have those laws repealed. We already saw that in California, and I think the movie industry had a lot to do with that. Charlie Chaplin is probably the best example of old Hollywood doing this, aside from the minstrel shows, which was more of a niche market. Like I said, I'm putting that aside because that was a specific type of act that people would do. It was an old vaudeville routine. But keeping the Asians out is very notable with things like Charlie Chan, where they got two white dudes to play Charlie Chan after they had Asian actors doing it. And it was mostly just due to Hollywood's racism at the time. And I think we're seeing that now with redheads. Yeah, it's 2% of the population. Yeah, I'd be shocked if it was that much, quite frankly. Yeah, James, that's a great example. I think was that Enter the Dragon, where Bruce Lee fought Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and he gets a black footprint on his chest. That's messed up. Hey, Stargazer, can confirm witches. Yeah, well, I mean, I'm not saying they're not evil. I'm just saying it's a bad thing to oppress them further, and then you'll get their evil witchcraft aimed at you. You know. But to swap one marginalized community for another seems very contrary to what Hollywood preaches. So if they were replacing brunettes, it would be one thing, but they're choosing a minority that they consider white because what is whiteness? Then why are they targeting that particular group? It seems very questionable at best. Yeah, David Carradine in Kung Fu. Yeah, good point. Formerly Rodline. I think Bruce Lee had some kind of scheduling conflict, but they couldn't bother to go find another Asian guy that knows martial arts. No, they want David Carradine, who really didn't. Oh, Faster Pussycat Kill Kill. What a great movie. So I think what we're seeing is just a new take on what Hollywood used to do by marginalizing groups they don't like. In this case, redheads. And I think we're going to see more of this sort of thing with other characters. We're going to see Superman replaced with Black Superman and Red Sonja with, I think that lady's black. I don't know. And they're just going to keep doing this with more and more characters. And it's bled over into the comics for a long, long time anyway, with the race swapping. And it's really just lazy. Instead of making movies like the Black Superman movie, would have been much better served making an Icon movie, because Icon is the Milestone character, which I think is owned by DC now, and he was a Superman type character that was black. He was an alien that crashed Earth and became black. Hey, Stargazer. Why don't they make an Icon movie? They could bring attention to a comic book character that was already black and is pretty interesting in his own right, and has a lot of stories behind him. I think Icon went for about 50 issues, and they're relaunching Milestone. So why not do that instead? But no, instead they would rather give a hand-me-down costume to another actor who is just race swapped. So this is a new form of blackfacing in a lot of ways. I never saw the Young Justice show. Rocket was cool. She was an interesting character too, because when her and Icon first teamed up in the comics, she was pregnant. And that was a storyline that they tried to cover with a lot more delicacy in the 90s than anything would happen today. Yeah, that's exactly what it looks like, Richard, is they're going for a minority within white people, or what they're calling white people. Icon, the whole Milestone universe is ripe for filmmaking. There's some great characters. We've seen Static get his own cartoon. We've seen Icon show up occasionally in places, but not very often. Hardware, I would watch all those movies, but they can't do it without inserting all the nonsense racial politics, and instead want to fetishize this. This is a trend in Hollywood, and it will pass like all the others, but they're going to leave a wake of destruction on pop culture on the way. And they're going to confuse people, because you see Cyclone in the movie, and then you go pick up the comic, and you're like, who's this lady? It just confuses audience members, and it cuts down your chance for cross-promotion, which is where you make your money. You could be making a lot more money by making a regular Superman movie and then selling Superman comics. And then DC would have the golden opportunity, if they made an Icon movie with a cool black character with cool powers, and then release the comic at the same time. And it's cross promotion. They make more money. I don't understand why they don't like money, other than they're a bunch of filthy panderers who would rather sacrifice profits for some woke points. I'm using Hollywood not as the city, but as the concept of the movie studios. The physical location of Hollywood and the movie studios, it's kind of irrelevant. It's the movie industry. It's an easier way of saying the movie industry. They covered the pregnancy with kid gloves, but look at Starfire's outfit. Glad they gave her more clothes in Teen Titans cartoon. Yeah, they did handle it with kid gloves, but it was a book aimed at like 12-year-old kids. Oh, I would absolutely watch a Blackula reboot. That's a race swap that was both entertaining and fun. But even that was a race swap character. So, I don't know. Blackenstein wasn't nearly as good as Blackula. But there's a lot of great IPs out there that could be redone or represented. Meteor Man, Mantis is one of my favorites that had a lot of potential, and they just kind of ignored that in TV history. So my mom watched Captain Marvel and TNT, I asked about it. Turns out they left out her beating up the guy and stealing his bike. Funny how that works. Yeah, it's weird what they'll ignore. Oh yeah, sorry, Louie. I didn't mean it to sound like that. Oh, Tales from the Hood was a great movie. Leprechaun in the Hood was also a very good movie for all the wrong reasons. But there are a lot of really good black characters out there that are being ignored, or even just general minority characters. Aztec had a lot of potential. I really liked that comic when it came out, and now it's just they replaced Aztec with a chick, and it became your usual anti-white nonsense, from what I could tell. And I think the problem is they automatically assume that a black character is like a bitter and angry person. There's no happy black people in comics anymore. They're just angry at white people all the time, and it's lazy racial politics. It's very distressing. The comic book world in general has become very dystopian in its outlook. There are no happy heroes anymore. You don't see anybody smiling. Oh, that'll never happen, James. They will never ever do that. Oh, Cool Runnings was a classic, man. You can't reboot that. John Candy's gone. Yeah, if you did this with white people, it would be very controversial. But you can't talk about that without getting in trouble. So if you switch this and recast, I don't know, Shaft, like you said, it's probably a great example. Recast Shaft as a white guy. There would be protests over that. Yeah, Death at a Funeral was fine the way it was. Matthew McFadden is a superb actor, and that movie was awesome the way it was. But then they have an all-black version of it for no reason. Steel Magnolias, same thing. The Wiz, I kind of like that movie. It's stupid, but I kind of like that movie for some reason. But it won't surprise me if we see more of this for the next 5 or 10 years, because Hollywood is very slow to turn. And corporations in general are very slow to change their ways. They don't learn, and they have to lose a lot of money before they figure out that what they're doing is stupid. Hey, Lester, how you doing, man? I've covered most of what I wanted to talk about, but I just think that profit-wise, this is a really dumb move, because the cross-marketing for toys, comics, all that is really something they're throwing down and leaving the money on the table. And I think that's dumb. Just make new characters. I don't understand why that's so hard. There are really good black characters out there that have been around since the 50s and 60s. You can even go back to Lion Man, who was one of the first black characters from the early 40s, late 30s. And do a movie on somebody like that, some obscure heroes. But instead, they got to racially swap Redheads. And now they're going for bigger characters like Superman. And I think it's going to fail. You're going to confuse audiences. They're not going to understand why you're changing these characters. And you'll get some people go see it out of curiosity and some people for virtue signals. But beyond that, it's not going to be popular. It's not going to have the staying power. And it's most likely not going to be a classic, especially if somebody like Ta-Nehisi Coates is doing it. Is Flash Gordon too campy or just enough camp? Oh, that's a good question. The 1980 movie, I think, was perfect. It was just enough camp. It was silly, but it was a lot of fun. The original serials, I don't think they were that campy. I think they were just low budget. But I'm a big fan of both, so. Joel Schumacher wrote The Wiz? Wow. Wow, the guy that put the nipples on the bat suit. What an enigma he is. Yeah, Hollywood always takes the wrong lesson because they have to cover for failure. They can never admit they did something wrong. They always have to blame someone else. And they can't ever afford to show weakness because it hurts their career. So nobody's ever going to take any responsibility for that. And that's sad. It's just another way Hollywood is full of pathetic little weasels. And it makes me sad because they could be doing a lot better. Uh-oh. Chrome's freezing. I think my internet's acting up a little bit here. Okay, sorry about that. This is frustrating for many reasons because they have all these great properties that are making billions of dollars. Marvel Universe showed that people will go see superhero movies, but now they want to tinker with everything and play politics with it instead of making good product. And we are losing out on the potential of having more good product because they want to ham-fistedly insert all this nonsense politics. Oh, Flesh Gordon was great. Flesh Gordon Meets the Cosmic Cheerleaders also was a fun time, but the first Flesh Gordon was the best one. You're going to get me talking about movies, and then we'll be completely off topic and into some random weird shit. But yeah, Hollywood, it just doesn't learn the right lessons. They refuse to take any kind of input from the audience because they think we're all stupid. Because they're a bunch of elitists who know more than us. And it's a damn shame, especially because they have the opportunity to make great characters on screen that people would like. Icon and Rocket, Static Shock, which they are talking about bringing back, but Static would be good. It would be nice to see people actually make new characters. If they really want good black characters, make good black characters. But they can't seem to do it without making angry racial nonsense in there instead of just making inspiring people. It's sad. It's very, very sad. Yeah, but you can't say that anymore, Louis, because they were there for entertainment. And it's much like Amos and Andy. Amos and Andy, the original radio drama, was voiced by two white guys playing black characters. And that's a big no-no these days. But back then, it was so popular, it got a TV show, and they made an all-black cast. And that gets called racist now, but it was a very popular sitcom that introduced a lot of people and to black culture and humanized those black guys as having the same problems they did and having these comedic situations. It was actually a pretty funny show. They weren't making fun of black people. They were making black people normalized and saying that, look, these guys are just like you. Any sitcom now, it like Blackish or something like that has an all black cast, being compared to Amos and Andy was better written, but it gets called racist for some reason. They had an all black cast. I think every now and then there'd be a white guy on there, but you won't hear about that. You just hear how they're stereotypes. They really weren't that stereotypical. So I'm really disappointed with that. It's a shame that the historical legacy of good black characters and shows gets just called racist because white people produced it. Instead, they got to take white characters and swap them, and that's not considered racist for some reason. Oh, the Justice Society movie was good? Cool, I'll have to check that out. Yeah, Amos and Andy was a huge step forward for black culture, and it gets thrown under the bus as just and dismissed as racist, when actually that actually could have gone a very, very long way toward advancing black culture into the mainstream. And instead of seeing that for a major stepping stone, people just call it racist. And it's really not. If you watch the show, the TV show was really well done. It was on a small budget, but it was pretty popular at the time because the radio drama, which nobody for a long time knew those guys were white. They really became quite popular. It's really sad. Lord of the Thongs was also funny. I don't know nothing about birthing no baby. Yeah, I've used that line before. Yeah, had he won a Oscar for that role too, Louis. That was, I think, the first black person to ever get an Oscar, and she was really good in that role. Yeah, but that's the thing about comedy is it's all over the top. I mean, look at the Three Stooges. The fact that it's a little over the top, people still relate to that and they find it funny. There was a great episode about a dime where somebody was trying to make a phone call. I think Andy was trying to make a phone call, and it became a whole ordeal. And it was really funny, but it was much better written than most comedy today, and it didn't have any of the nonsense racial politics. And for its time period, that's actually kind of important. So yeah, I'm a little sick of this crap that Hollywood's doing, but it's nothing new for them. They've been having people play characters from different ethnicities for a long time, and they look back on that as being very racist, but what they're doing now is stunning and brave. So in 20, 30 years, are people going to look at this and say that's racist? I don't know. Time will tell. But I think it's definitely racist. Oh, Mont Pa Kettle movies, yeah. I saw some of those. Yeah, first black winner of an Academy Award Best Supporting Actress in 1939. Okay, that's really all I had. I wanted to complain about that because I think this is lazy, shameless pandering that's going to be historically looked at as being divisive and not helpful to the cause like they think it is. It's just going to be seen as another lazy, racist pandering and handing mantles to black people as shameless efforts to keep from having to make new characters that are interesting. And it's just a new form of blackface. But time will tell. So you guys got any questions or you want to talk movies or whatever? I got a little while yet. The main point is kind of beaten to the ground at this point. Are there any black characters you guys want to see? Or English woman born in India, how dare she play Georgian Belle? Yeah, right? Vivian Lee. I remember the actress Lillian Gish has a movie theater at a university, and they were going to rename it because she was in Birth of a Nation. She didn't write it; she was just in the movie, and they were going to strip the name of her movie theater away. And I think more people need to call out this crap because guilt by association. Come on, that's ridiculous. Um, I don't like supporting these movies that do this lazy pandering crap. It's not entertaining. It's just stupid. Yeah, it was just a job to her, and at the time, it was socially acceptable to be play in blackface. And the book The Klansman was sadly very popular at the time. I mean, you got to remember, 1915 was a much different time period than it is now. And you looking at it through a modern lens is not productive because they were products of their time. They didn't have hindsight like we do. They had different mentalities. Gorbag, that would make too much sense. You can't have actually nobody except a Kryptonian should be playing Superman. So until we find one, they can't make a Superman movie. Baxter Stockman was an interesting character. Where's Kitty? He's outside wandering around somewhere. He's mad at me because he ate like 3 cans of food and I wouldn't give him any more over the course of the day, and he was just out begging. I'm like, you're eating me out of house and home, man. The cartoon version of the Killing Joke. I tried watching it. That first part with Barbara and Bruce was just kind of lazy to me. It was boring, and I didn't think it fit with the storyline. They just were trying to fill more time. They're not really a big thing anymore, Louis. There's about 5,000 members. Um, Probably fewer than that. About half of those are probably federal agents. They don't really do much anymore. They got sued into oblivion over the course of like 30 years, and just about every chapter of the group is gone. They are more or less just a thing people call each other now when they want to get mean at somebody. I think there's more neo-Nazis and skinheads than there are Klansmen. I liked Baxter in the Game Boy Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game. I never played that one. No, Gorbag, what he does is he eats about half a can and then he wanders off. And one of the other stray cats that's in the area will come by and eat the rest, or a raccoon will. So when he comes back for it, it's gone, and then he begs me for more. And he probably does have a tapeworm or two. He's had them before, but I can't afford to spend any money on him. He's a barn cat. He's not an indoor cat. Yeah, Mark Hamill was the best actor to play the Joker for voice. Definitely on any animated show. That's messed up. Evolved. Wow. Gross. Sorry, Richard. I promised to take care of him when I got him back because he grew up here originally, and then, well, he was born here, and then when he was a kitten, I gave him to some friends, and they had to give him back because they were moving into a place that didn't allow pets. So he's back to living in my garage instead of their barn. There's not a lot of them, Louis. They're really tiny groups. There's some out in Texas area, but not a whole lot. They're just not popular anymore. They've, especially since like the '90s, when a lot more people kind of gave up on the racial crap, and people just started getting along because they didn't look at skin color. That stuff's been fading out. It's making a resurgence now, but not nearly what it was. A lot of the Aryan Brotherhood type groups are mostly located in jails. You run into one every now and then, but it's really, really rare. Yeah, definitely more boogeyman than reality. Wow. Costco chicken. Yeah, I gotta go to Costco one of these days. I gotta find my card. A buddy of mine gave me one of his guest membership things where you can have somebody else in your family on it. So I'm one of his. Yeah, the resurgence is largely due to. I think we're going to see, unfortunately, a resurgence of groups like the Klan or something similar because they're constantly shitting on white people and they're breeding hatred by that. They're creating the boogeyman they think they're fighting. Yeah, the shit's coming back because that's all they talk about. They're sitting around blaming white people for everything, and eventually you're going to push people into this crap. You're starting to see a push for resegregation from black students who don't want to be around white people. You're creating militants on both sides, and it's a really bad idea. It's really, really dangerous. It's not getting any better. Yeah, the the Aryan Brotherhood mostly recruits white people because they need protection in prison. You get people that are looking to join a gang just out of survival. It's really sad, but that's part of what happens in big prisons. Yeah, a lot of people want segregation, but it doesn't work. You got to live with people, whether you like them or not. Hey, what's up, FTW? We're kind of off topic or on a tangentially related topic. But yeah, it's one of those things where you can say these people are bad or whatever, but you still have to deal with them. They're still around. Still have to live with other people. So you might as well, if you don't like them, just ignore them, or you don't have to be an asshole. You can just go ahead and treat people like people and move on with your day. You don't have to sit around and cause problems for people. It's not worth your time. It's not worth their time to cause problems. I don't know why people like to cause trouble. I'm way too lazy for that. Yeah, I think we're going to see more of that. There'll probably be a lot more segregation places than there used to be. Not to mention they're trying to make kids in grad school to look at race, and the idiots pushing it aren't willing to realize that they have an outgroup preference. Yeah, exactly. And it's really disturbing. I don't know if you guys saw the Disney leaks that came out, but Disney was pushing this racial bias training. I was going to cover it on this weekend's stream. Let me see if I can pull it up here. Yeah, Newsweek, of all people, was talking about this. Hey, Charming, how you doing? So here's the Newsweek article. Oh, go away. I don't want to subscribe to your stupid. Disney Corps asks employees to complete white privilege checklist, pivot away from white dominant culture. And this is just more trouble that no one needs. Why are you trying to separate everybody and make people resent others? And this actually made me really curious. I mentioned this on Twitter. I'm wondering if the layoffs at Disney might have had some kind of racial component. Because this is coming at a time when Disney had just laid off a lot of cast members. So did they lay off people they thought were privileged over those that they considered not privileged? So let's kind of go through this real quick. Leaked documents from the Walt Disney Company ask employees to complete a white privilege checklist and to, quote, pivot away from white dominant culture. These statements appear in a company document entitled Reimagine Tomorrow, Where We All Belong. The document is an anti-racist discussion guide that teaches allyship for the race consciousness. No, it teaches segregationism and racism. I'm sorry, it's what I read of it. It doesn't teach anything of the sort. According to documents published on Friday on Twitter by writer Christopher M. Rufo, the document states that the recent killings of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and other Black Americans are, quote, part of a long history of systemic racism and transphobia, end quote. First of all, I don't think either of those people were trans. Also, George Floyd, there's no evidence that was racial at all. Same with Breonna Taylor, that there's no evidence that was racial at all. They were after a drug dealer. Yeah, when I was a kid, we were taught not to see skin color and treat everybody the same. And since we've taken a step away from that, look how bad race relations are. Yeah, Disney does not want white people money. Privilege is incited by our betters, James, people that care more than we do and will dictate to us as necessary. From what I heard, Charming, Moon Knight is being played by Oscar Isaacs. I think he played Poe Dameron in the Star Wars movies. That's a hate fact, Gorbag. These documents also cover topics such as white privilege, white fragility, white saviors, microaggressions, and anti-racism. What privilege is it when white people complain that their accounts are stripped? That doesn't sound like white privilege to me. White fragility, these are all nonsense terms. I'm going to lose subscribers over this. The document suggests that employees reflect on the diversity of their personal and professional networks. Employees should also consider how other dimensions of their identities give or do not give you access and advantage. Furthermore, workers are encouraged to work through feelings of guilt, shame, and defensiveness to understand what is beneath them and what needs to be healed. This sounds like some new age woo. Employees are discouraged from questioning or debating the lived experiences of their black colleagues. So never question your black colleagues, ever, even if they're talking bullshit. Or from asking those colleagues to educate them about racism, since such discussions can be emotionally taxing. So you never have to justify your hatred toward white people, because if anybody questions it, it's emotionally taxing and your white fragility. Something like that. The document ends a 21-day challenge for employees to reflect on the effects of being raised in a society that elevates white culture over others. You do realize 65% of the country is white, so white culture will just end up being kind of the default because it's the dominant culture. You guys know that that's how that works, right? You don't go to Norway and expect them to be dressed like Zulus. That'd be weird and kind of racist. Part of the challenge involves completing a white privilege checklist. The checklist asks if a person has ever experienced racist slurs. I have. I'm white. Discrimination for their skin color. I have. Threats due to their gender or sexual orientation. Yep. Bullying or conditions of poverty. Both. Some of the statements on the checklist include, I have never been told I sound white. I have been told that. I have never been called a terrorist. Have been called that. On Twitter, mostly. I am always comfortable with showing affection to my partner in public. No, that's gross. Don't do that. Don't make out in public. It's weird. I have never been raped. Why is that a racial thing? I don't. And it's kind of inappropriate for your workplace to have you check that off on a list. That's none of their business. I don't rely on public transportation. That's got nothing to do with race. That's a poverty issue. I can afford a therapist. If you work at Disney, you probably need one at this point. And here's some images from it. Let's see if we can read this. This is probably too small to read. All right, we'll look at some of these in a second. Let's finish this article. We'll go through the checklist maybe. Another section of the document asks participants what they can do to pivot from white dominant culture to something different. Well, like what? What does that mean? Black woman called me a... Wow, Louis. Wow. I don't even know if I can repeat that. Yeah, this is not related to your skin color so much. It is just the environment you end up in. You go into an area with some angry people of a different ethnicity. It doesn't matter what ethnicity, and they may treat you differently. Go to a foreign country sometime, and you'll be surprised at getting called white devil or something like that, which may or may not happen in Thailand occasionally. Some features of white dominant culture, according to the document, include seeing things as either absolutely racist or not racist. Treating it, I think that's more like middle-class lefty territory. Treating input from non-senior work leaders as a threat. I'm sure the CEO will be really upset if some random male worker is like, Oh, dude, that's racist because I don't want to do that. No, fuck off. Overly focusing on individualism. The different alternatives to all the above, including holding contradictory thoughts and feelings, sounds like mental illness, collaborating with stakeholders on all levels, whatever that means, working on community collaborations and learning how to take direct action, direct constructive feedback. Oh, there's an audio podcast on critical race theory. The training was created with input from Disney Parks, Experience and Products Division of the company's diversity and inclusion team. In February, leaked documents from Coca-Cola showed diversity training materials from professional networking sites LinkedIn that encouraged staff to try to be less white, less arrogant, less certain, less defensive, less ignorant, and more humble. Coca-Cola defended the material, but LinkedIn later removed the training module from their website. I do remember Poison Elves and I Lucifer. I read volume 2 of Poison Elves a long, long time ago when it first came out. It was pretty good. It wasn't really my thing, but I do remember it, and I remember it was well done. That's a hate fact, Ginger. We can't talk about that. Anti-racism training has become a divisive topic in America because it's full of racism mostly. Liberals and progressives view critical race theory training as necessary to help combat systemic racism and build a more equitable society. However, critics of such training say it's unfair and it unfairly asks white people to acknowledge the advantages of being white when similar questions posed to other races would be offensive. Exactly. Newsweek contacted Disney for comment, and I don't think they got any comment back. So, yeah, this is actually, I think, going to blow up over the next week. And it's going to really push some people away from Disney. And I think it should, rightly so. Because a lot of the things that they're talking about are pretty racist. I'll drop the archive link to this article because it'll probably get taken down. You grew up in a city that's over 87% black. Yeah, a lot of people have. I was friends with Drew. I had a small cameo in them. Oh, nice, Scorebag. That's cool. So, yeah, let's take a look at some of the stuff on here and see what we've got. Oh, no, that's a boring one. Let's find a more interesting one. Let's find that checklist. Equity, not equality. Look, a handicap ramp for the crippled kid. This is not how that plays out. I'm sorry. Whenever somebody says equity, that means they're taking something from somebody under the guise of being nice. Oh, we're going to make it better for somebody. Yeah, dude, I wouldn't blame you if you did, Rodline. There's a lot of stuff in the teaching fields that is really, really shady. Okay, white employees are told to work through feelings of guilt, shame, and defensiveness. So let's see what we've got here. How can you affect change in your sphere of influence? Is there an opportunity to share your learning with other allies? You're either an ally or an enemy, it seems like. Reflect on the diversity of your personal and professional networks and how racial and other dimensions of your identity give or do not give you access and advantage. Proximity to black people or being part of a marginalized group does not mean you cannot harbor bias. You have original sin. You are guilty. Just because you have black friends or a black spouse doesn't mean anything. Acknowledge your emotional reactions in this process, the sources of discomfort, and productive ways to address it. Examine and work through feelings of guilt, shame, and defensiveness to understand what is beneath them and what needs to be healed. So if you're defensive because somebody called you a racist and you don't think you are, you're broken and need to be fixed. Recognize your colleagues are also processing the ways in which the pandemic is disproportionately affecting the Black community. What? If you are feeling confused, shocked, or it's like they're reading my mind now, or have recently awakened to systematic racism, they have not identified what is in the system is racist. They're just saying the system is racist. They're not able to point to any specific thing and say that rule is racist, that law is racist, because they have to label the whole thing to destroy it and tear it down. Yeah, original sin, man. This is all Mark of Cain shit. Original sin. Somebody handed you an apple and you ate it, or you killed your brother. You're descended from Cain, so you got to bear the mark. Yeah, avoid messages like, I can't believe this is happening. Oh my God. This is ridiculous. I want to see that checklist. Let's see if he's got it on there. Sorry, we're doing this in real time. I didn't plan on covering this, but we're going to anyway because I'm bored. Can't see this again. Let's see. The wokest place on earth. Let's just go to his website. But he's got it on there. We've drifted out into Disney hatred. It's a little off topic, but original source documents. Here we go. Can I download this? No, it's not gonna let me. Go away. I don't care. All right. Thought starter for allies. The struggle is real. Solidarity and mutuality are common goals. No, they're not. No, they're not. There's no solidarity. This is divisive. This is hard work. Oh, I'm sorry. This hard work is not a moment in time. It's an ongoing learning journey about how evil you are. The nebulous work we're always hearing about, requires more than attending a parade or a rally to demonstrate support. Now, supplication is necessary. Don't take the responsibility of being an ally lightly. This is about building self-awareness through education and advocating for institutional change. What does that mean? Allyship is not self-defined. It is defined by the individual or group for whom you are an ally. So somebody else sets the standard for whether or not you can be friends with them. You are an ally when the individual or group says so and recognizes you as one. So you can be cast out at any time. Being an ally is not about recognition, promotion, or reward. Allies are not saviors. Rather, allyship is all about common good and changing the world. Now, it sounds like allyship is very akin to being a servant. There really is no end to this because they don't define what anything is. You are always on the path to learning. You are never good enough. So you can always be cast aside. There's no redemption either. Your skin color apparently is going to keep you from ever achieving acceptability. Deepening your insight and knowledge is a critical first step toward understanding the magnitude and complexity of the current state and building empathy to authentically connect with your colleagues. Take ownership of educating yourself about structural anti-Black racism in the current and historical context. Historically, yeah, okay, but current, really? I don't see a lot of that. Opt for sources from Black authors. First of all, why is that capitalized? Second of all, what makes somebody a more reputable source just because of their skin color? That makes no sense. Do not rely on your Black colleagues to educate you. This is emotionally taxing. Why? If I have questions, who am I supposed to go to? All right, let's skip down a little bit. Reflect. self-analyze about how much you should hate yourself. Engage. Be accountable. Be willing to make mistakes and be open to feedback. If you make a mistake, apologize and commit to doing better the next time. While feedback may sting, resist the urge to defend your intent or center your feelings. No, just feel shame, filthy. I can't say that, can I? And instead focus on the impact you had on the affected person and supplicate yourself to them. But drop down and kowtow until they accept your apology. Identify ways to share your access to opportunities or resources. Like what? I'm broke. Amplify voices and interpret bias and confirm with the group or person to whom you are an ally if they want the specific support. Allies are not saviors. They keep saying that. So you have to get permission every time you want to do something. That sounds very, very bad. You're supposed to pay money to buy books. Yep. This is about giving people money. Sounds kind of racist. Yep. If this had been aimed at black people, saying you need to understand white people and you have to wait and get permission, every sentence would probably end with "boy." This is racist. This is just racist. It gets worse as I read it too. Do not question or debate black colleagues' lived experiences. For example, are you sure they meant it that way? Or it's not a race thing? Or I'm playing devil's advocate. Instead, reserve judgment and offer statements of validation if someone shares their experience. What if they misinterpreted something and wildly out of context? Like somebody said, "Oh, hey, you're going to go get food. Would you mind stopping and getting me something?" Oh, what? You saying that because I'm black? No, because you're my coworker and I'm asking you to do me a favor. I thought we were friends. Instead, you're supposed to be like, "Oh, you're right. That was totally, your feelings are legitimate, even though you're wildly overreacting." Fuck off. You shouldn't validate someone for being an idiot. Doesn't matter what their skin color is. This is just never disagree with somebody because they're black. And again, black is capitalized. This is very reimagine tomorrow is what a racist future. This is really creating the enemy they think they're fighting. I don't think they understand that they're doing this, or they just want that. I don't know, and it's horrifying either way. Acknowledge and listen with empathy when black colleagues share their lived experience. Avoid saying, "I feel you, I've been there." Instead say, "I hear you. Tell me more about what that felt like." Yeah, make people angrier. Did that make you feel angry? Oh, you're getting angrier because I asked you to get angrier and relive that. Avoid conflating the black experience with other communities of color. Oh, so black people are unique here. Okay. While other people of color are subject to racism, there is a unique history that led to anti-black racism and the ways in which that shows up. Oh, don't talk to the Chinese about building railroads. Nope. Avoid reposting traumatic images and videos. That's totally subjective. That could be anything. There was a girl afraid of sailboats. We're asking your black colleagues to recount their experiences. Continuously look at traumatic images will desensitize you. Maybe don't be a pussy. Reflect on why you need to consume that and its impact on you, who you may be emotionally impacting. I can't control other people's stupid emotions. Some people are emotional basket cases that want to dump their purse out on the table every given chance. I used to sit in these board meetings at this old job I had, one of my few office jobs. I hated it. I had to sit in these stupid morning meetings with people would come in and just bitch about their lives for like 10 minutes. And you had to listen to it because they were your stupid boss. And then talk about their problems with their spouse and their cat. I don't want to deal with your emotional nonsense. If you're an emotional basket case, talk to a therapist. They get paid to listen to your drivel. And you can do it on the taxpayer dime if you're poor. God. Whether your intent outweighs the harm it inflicts. My intent is to be left alone and not deal with somebody else's weirdo emotional baggage and their perceptions on how everything around them is racist. This is an actual training manual from Disney. How about I just don't talk to them? That's the safest way, Ginger. That's what it looks like. Is you should be on eggshells around every black person you work with, and try not to even make eye contact for fear they will accuse you of racism. And you can be fired for it because now they have that privilege. This is going to create more problems than they think they're going to fix. Be aware of microaggressions, which aren't real. And they're so minuscule that you just made them up, which can be statements that devalue someone. An example of these are, you are very articulate. Hey, some people don't speak well. You are not like the others I've met from the black community. I've never heard anyone say that. And I like your black Southern accent. Wow. Yeah, that's a weird thing to say to somebody. Allyship is not about credit or reward. More likely, honestly, this was probably somebody said, I like your Southern accent, and somebody added this word in their head. Allyship is not about credit, reward, or showcasing all the ways you are saving the world. Hey, what group does that? Oh, yeah, leftists. Especially on Twitter. They're the only ones that want credit for that. Oh, I don't blame you, nobody. Some people project. Yeah, nobody says shit like this except like weird, crazy cat lady leftists are the only type of people I could see saying some of these things. Institution. Be aware of tokenism. When black professionals are expected to be representative for their entire race. Who's doing that? Mention professional skills and qualities of black colleagues when they are not around or provide visibility and sponsorship. How about you promote all people for their skills and qualities, not just black ones, because all people are people. Endorse and recognize black colleagues' contributions and accomplishments publicly. This turns into like the Westminster Kennel Club, like, oh, Bob, you did such a great job. Oh, look at him. He did this. Do you pat him on the head then too? This is some sort of weird showcasing. I don't like this. This is bizarre. Provide mentoring and sponsorship within your sphere of influence to bridge the gaps in access and support for black colleagues and candidates. I don't even know what that means. Proactively offer opportunities for sustained career growth and advocate for development to help promote black talent. How about you promote people that are good at the job? Share their career goals with decision makers. Well, you should always be trying to promote from within anyway. Doesn't matter what color they are, because as a manager, your job is to bring new talent in. Who cares what color they are? Yeah, I don't blame you, Gorebag. I wish I could do that. To be honest, I have a black Southern accent. A lot of people think I'm black when I'm talking, and they don't know my race. Well, if you have a deep voice and a Southern accent, sometimes people will think that you're black. But I don't think well, I'm from the North, so I don't think I've ever heard somebody use the phrase black Southern accent. That's just weird. Yeah, this is pissing me off more and more, Charming. But you can see why they're doing more race swapping now. This is shameless pandering. This actually kind of does relate to what I was talking about earlier, more than I thought it would. There's a lot of links in here too. Harvard Business Review. Stop asking black people if you could touch their hair. I have never seen anyone do that, because people that want to touch other people's hair are weirdos. Like, seriously, maybe some hippie in Portland did that somewhere, but I've just never encountered this. I used to work with a lot of black people, and I've never seen anyone try and touch somebody else's hair or ask to do that. That's very weird. The Council on Foreign Relations. Oh, let the conspiracy theorists unleash. Wow. All right, let's see what we got here. What can I do about racism? An anti-racism discussion guide. This is going to be boring. Part 1, implicit biases. That's been debunked dozens of times. the results are always inconsistent whenever they've tested implicit bias. That's woo science right up there. That's actually more woo than phrenology. Microaggressions, that's not a real thing. That's just people being hypersensitive babies. It doesn't matter what their skin tone is. Becoming anti-racist today, interpreting biases, working toward inclusivity and belonging. What does that even mean? Unconscious contributions to racism. As somebody who's dated people from other races, I think this is one of the dumbest fucking things I've ever heard of. Treat people like people. Some people are racist, some people are not. Oh, great. Oh, you might be saying to yourself, oh, great. Based on that definition, I'm not a racist. So this is a discussion guide for other people. I don't believe that my race is superior to anyone else's. Fact. The problem is that systemic racism or racism carried out by groups with power like societies, governments, businesses, and schools benefits some people and harms others despite your personal beliefs. What's more, individual racism is often buried deep, affecting people who have the best intentions, and the impact can compound harm to people inside and outside of work, whether you realize it or not. See, you're so tainted, you don't even know you're tainted. You need to have your sins washed away by the high priest. Oh, man. 90% of this is buzzwords? Absolutely. This is fucking disgusting. Microaggressions. People often think of racism as Ku Klux Klan members in hoods burning crosses in people's yards or racial profiling by law enforcement officials. But workplace racism is often more covert and might show up in microaggressions, which are small jokes, veiled insults, or acts of power that negatively comment on a person's race, ethnicity, or culture. They may seem small in the moment. A paper, they can do incredible damage. People that are looking for problems to offend them and hurt their feelings. And often it's very sensitive people or people that are angry or racist that want to be offended so they can complain about somebody. And somebody may have said something totally innocuous and they still took it that way. This is why I'd rather be on YouTube than working in the corporate world. It is just such a minefield that you have to navigate. It's awful. Oh, sorry, Gorbag, I missed this one. Thank you for the donation. Did you see my Twitter post of the Twitter squirrel? It's horrifying. Yeah, thanks for the nightmares, dude. Yeah, pretty much, Gorbag. Microaggressions are just an excuse to whine for pussies. Yeah. And this stuff's getting worse, too. I thought it was bad 20 years ago when I was in college, and it's so much worse now. When people can get a person of a certain race fired for almost no reason, isn't that power? Yes, it is. It's also privilege because you're not allowed to question the lived experience of somebody. They could just start making shit up and you can't call them out on it because then you're invalidating their lived experience. Next thing you know, you're fired for being a racist. Deeper group discussion. Can we go around and suggest some appropriate responses? When we witness someone expressing personal biases, we don't make racist comments here. Well, how do you... This is also nebulous. Being anti-racist today. Financially and verbally support businesses owned by underrepresented groups. I don't know, are they selling something I want to buy? I don't care what their skin color is if they have something cool I want to buy. Ugh. I go to the carryout run by an Indian guy. Does that count? He's really cool, too. He calls me Mr. Jack. His daughter's kind of hot. Working toward inclusivity and belonging. Mindfully hand out high-value projects. Oh, this sounds like privilege. Reconsider who is capable of doing important jobs and look outside of your small team of champions. chances are good someone who is not your usual list can excel at the job, says Joyce, somebody, former counsel for Nokia Siemens Networks. So, okay, so what if my small team of champions is all black? And there's somebody who is not on that usual list that could excel at the job and is white. Can I give them the job? Ha! Probably not. Respond quickly to double standards and idea theft. When you see, well, that's just good business practice anyway. When you see instances of majority group members taking or being given credit for ideas that people of color originally offered, speak up and give the idea originators their due. That sounds fine on paper, but how often does that actually happen? Or is it just somebody claiming later that they came up with an idea? Seek opinions from those who don't speak up. Oh yeah, call on people. That always works out well because everybody wants to be called on. Some people are brought up to be modest or quiet, nice spelling error, which can lead them to hold back their opinions. Counter this by actively seeking out their thoughts. Jackie, you're experienced here. What's your take on this? So single people out and ask them questions. Learn what to say and what not to say. Yeah, don't drop the N-bomb. People with the best intentions are often unwittingly causing harm with their language, especially during tumultuous times like we're living in today. The guide on the next page, ooh, this ought to be good. What not to say to your black colleagues right now. Notice this is only about black people, not about Asians or Inuits or American Indians or Latinos, which this, Florida has a lot of Latinos, and there's a Disneyland in Florida. A lot of Cubans live in Florida. What about Laplanders? I need a guide for Laplanders and how to talk to them so that I know how to relate to my Laplander associates. I need to know about seals, things like that. Yeah, the people who are just trying to keep their head down and not get noticed in a corporate situation. Yeah, right? That would be everybody with half a brain. Yeah, this is a struggle session, Rodline. You're not wrong at all. This is a corporate struggle session. So let's see what not to say to my black colleagues that I fictionally work with. I'm scared to say the wrong thing to you. This asks your black colleague to either console you or help you figure out what to say, which isn't fair. No, you shouldn't be afraid to say anything to your coworkers. Because you shouldn't be afraid of getting fired for saying something. Instead, what to say? I am having conversations about racism with my non-black family and friends, even though I'm afraid. This shows black colleagues that you are courageous enough to take a stand. Why are you annoying them with this anyway? That's not work-related. I hope, pray things change soon. By what context? This shows that you mean well, but meaning well isn't enough. This is the time to do well. Well, are you talking about like a hurricane coming through? Like, I hope this thing changes soon and it goes and hits Miami. Because fuck Miami, it's a dirty shithole. But this is highly situational. Instead, I am taking these steps to be a better ally. I am shutting down racist comments on my team. Why are you hiring racists? I am supporting the fight against racism by calling my representatives backing black businesses and or XYZ. Again, this is not work talk. Why are you going up to your black colleague and being like, I went down to that little Creole place run by that black dude? No, that's weird. That's very weird. I can't wait for things to calm down and get back to normal. This says more that your comfort is more important than the message of anti-racism. No, it says you're sick of this shit. I realize my discomfort is a fraction of what you're feeling. No, it really just I don't think I would say that. I feel my discomfort is a fraction of what you're feeling. Are they being tortured by like Jigsaw right now? Acknowledge that while you may feel unsettled right now, black people are exhausted, mentally drained, frustrated, stressed, barely sleeping, scared, and overwhelmed. Feelings which demand empathy and action. I don't know. Is Morgan Freeman sitting around barely sleeping? This is broad generalizations. This is dumb. That's stupider than I thought. Pro inclusion tip: to create unity in your group, talk about your organization's shared values. Use common examples of cooperation that everyone can relate to, no matter their identity, like hospital staff working in unison to save a patient, or sports team playing together to win the game. We're all human, and we all want to feel like we're part of something greater than ourselves. So why are we talking about race instead of focusing on the task at hand? If you're at work, you shouldn't be sitting there talking about somebody's skin color unless it's relevant to the job. You're at Disney. You're supposed to be making entertaining shit that's fun and escapist. Why does it matter if the dude sitting next to me is black? We're supposed to be working on creating something fun and entertaining. When are these conversations happening? Why are your people have so much downtime at your job that you can have weird conversations about race all the time? This is stupid. That's a good point, Charming, but I guess that's a thing that happens now. Uh, Elected, I don't know if there was a vote or something. Oh, this was absolutely written by somebody that was a racist and they just don't know it. It was either one of these self-loathing white supremacist types that, you know, the type that are like they, white people like that guy Sargon was talking with at MythCon the one time where he was like talking how meritocracy is racist. That's a self-loathing white supremacist. They think white people are the greatest and they got to bring everything down to so they can lift the black man up. They used to call it white man's burden. And it's the most obscene form of racism because they don't realize that they're racist, but they're talking with the same sort of thing, but just pretending to want to help black people. They may not even realize they're doing it, which is the sad part. But they're holding white people to these higher standards where they're saying things like meritocracy are racist because they think white people have an unfair advantage in everything because they secretly think that white people are better. And for me, that is a form of white supremacy. That's pretty disgusting. And they're really disturbing. And then there's the people like Robin DiAngelo who admitted that she's uncomfortable around black people. Maybe that's you as an issue, not the rest of us. It's got nothing to do with skin color. It's about you being a weirdo. And they push these narratives and they just want to tear down white people for whatever reason. Your self-loathing and weird racial hangups are not my deal, lady. I don't really care about people's skin tone. I care if you're an asshole or not. And it looks like shameless pandering. You got to get a ribbon because you're black. Maybe earn a ribbon and you'll feel a lot better about it. You feel better about things you earn than things you're given. Somebody hands you $100, you're going to frivolously waste it as opposed to blood, sweat, and tears of earning it. And I think a lot of executives are going to feel the same way when they're given a job. If I'm a black guy and I get a job on the board, is it because they have a quota and they want to hire a black guy, or is it because of my talent and my dedication and skill? Never been a liberal because I was taught critical thinking as a child. Yeah, right? I feel like bullshit. It feels like bullshit does. This is very infantilizing to black people. It's saying they can't do it on their own and they need white people to help them. This is total white man's burden repackaged. It also goes back to Manifest Destiny, which was the white people had to go out and bring the savages in and civilize them. And we saw that by forcing Indian kids into schools and changing their names occasionally, things like that. It was pretty disgusting because you eliminated a lot of their culture instead of absorbing them into the greater culture and letting them assimilate. It was forced, and that doesn't work either. And that's kind of what this is forced re-education. Sorry if you're hearing me drink water there because my voice is starting to go a little bit because I'm angry. Oh, thanks, Scorebag. Yeah, I'm probably going to get in trouble for this. I might have to private this stream, so let's enjoy it while we can and hope I don't get a suspension because I'm totally going to lose some subscribers over this. There's this picture we saw earlier. There's always got to be a cripple kid in there. Challenge. So, what can you do about racism? Leaders, take some time to step back and reflect on the diversity and inclusion strategies you are presently pursuing. Okay, none. Good. All right. Make them even better by building a leadership team with people of color at the helm to identify objectives, aspirations, and solutions for real change. Personally, list 3 of your greatest strengths you can leverage to meet the group's goals. That's that. What did anybody edit this and write out 3 actions you can take starting today? Now, one of the problems with this is you're going to end up seeing people feeling imposter syndrome, not only like what I just described, where they don't think they got the job on their merit. You're also going to see people elevated that aren't ready for it because of their skin color. And that's going to make them feel like that they're not worthy of the job and they can't do it because they're not ready for it. You have to train people in order to make them leaders. Not everybody's a natural leader. Some people have to be taught that. And it's not anything to do with their skin color. It's because not everybody is designed to be a leader. So what you're trying to do here is force people to be part of a group that they may not be ready to be. By promoting someone to a leadership position that isn't ready to be in a leadership position, you're setting them up for failure. And they are going to fail. And it's going to hurt them in the long term, not only career-wise, but you can hurt them emotionally to the point where they want to give up. And maybe they end up just leaving the field entirely. And that's just as damaging, if not more so, than anything else that you could do as a boss. If you're promoting people from within and they are not ready for the position, they're going to burn out, they're going to screw up, and you're going to end up either having to fire them or have somebody pick up the slack and cover for your failing as a leader. And that reflects on you, too. There are no editors. Treat everyone the same. Yeah, that would be the easiest way to do this. Promoting incompetence is the greatest way to destroy a company. We've seen that with people. It doesn't matter what their skin color is. If they're not ready for the job and they get thrust in there, they'll fuck up really bad. And if you end up doing that to like board members and CEOs, your company is in danger and you're going to lose money. And that means a lot of people will lose their jobs, not just the people that are screwing up. This affects a lot of underlings too, because if the leader's bad and the team ends up suffering because of it, that entire team could be eliminated. Not just the leader, but the entire team, and they'll be replaced. It's happened before. Yeah, this is not helpful for anyone to promote people that aren't ready for a promotion. It's funny, woke companies have trouble keeping black employees. It's true, because they don't know if they're hired because of their race or if they're being hired for their talent. And if they're being promoted just because of their skin color, they may not be ready for the job they're being promoted to. And that is really, really not helpful to anyone. Oh, thank you, Okie Native. My discomfort is a fraction of what you're feeling is what you tell 20-year-old non-white chick you pick up in a bar that you're banging in the butt when she is into being debased. Fact. Yeah, that's probably true, Rod. Yeah, this is insulting. This is very, very insulting. This is saying some really, really racist shit. Did a Klansman write this? Seriously? Be an agent for change by calling out microaggressions and other racist behavior when you witness them. Again, those terms are nebulous. Speak up to leadership about discriminatory policies and hiring practices and ask when changes will be made. Yeah, there's laws that cover this stuff. Pass the mic to those who are excluded and silenced, redirecting the conversation using their names so their voices are heard. Yeah, you see that quiet guy over there that doesn't want to be noticed? Notice him. Yeah, that's fucking stupid. In your workplaces, you can be the person who helps your colleagues feel like individuals and encourages them to live authentically at work. Do they expect somebody to show up like in some traditional African apparel? What is this? A goal for every single individual, no matter who. This is ridiculous. Icebreaker. What action steps could you take to be anti-racist? Resources for further reading. How to become an ally. Confronting biases. Blind spots in the brain. You should talk to a doctor about that. What's in a name? Crossing the cultural divide. A field experiment on labor market discrimination that studied over 5,000 resumes. Oh, I heard about this. Found that resumes with white-sounding names received 50% more callbacks than black-sounding names. Researchers also found that a white-sounding name yields as many callbacks as additional 8 years of experience. What I think a lot of this is quite frankly, I've worked with some hiring bosses that were kind of stupid. If they can't pronounce the name, they're afraid to call somebody. So if you have a name that's spelled kind of odd, they're unsure how to pronounce it. They just won't call them because of that. It had nothing to do with their ethnicity. It had more to do with they were afraid they would screw up and look racist. So when the leftists talk, we should call them out by their logic. We're haters. Yep. It's a one-way street, dude. So it's a never-ending cycle. It's always a slippery slope, and there's always someone to come around and replace you because they feel it's never enough. Yeah, and once you've been labeled as somebody that does microaggressions, they'll find a reason to fire you. Or one who really hates your prolonging the stupid, pointless meeting. Yep. They're just meetings are boring, and I hate being in them. And I think most people are like that. But these kind of Karens, they want to drag them out. Yeah, Kathleen Kennedy is a great example, BG. She seems like she did a fine job as a producer, but was in no way talented enough to be the creative force behind a franchise. That she has no subtlety. Exactly. Producers don't need to do that, but writers do. And good writers are subtle and don't have to beat you over the head with it. Unfortunately, somebody that's not prepared can screw up a franchise. Kathleen Kennedy is a perfect example of what I've been talking about. She wasn't prepared to be in charge of the franchise, and look at the damage she did to the Star Wars fandom. Not just on the reputation with the fans, but the financial damage that she did, firing people all the time, reshooting things. It cost Disney billions, and they angered all their fans. These people will never be content. There's no bottom to this well. You're absolutely right, nobody. It's never going to end. Yeah, Latrocious. If you don't know how to pronounce the name, then why would you call and embarrass yourself? And worse, have somebody call and complain and be like, look, they interviewed me, but they kept getting my name wrong. And it was very racist of them to do that. That comes back on you. So I think this study is actually more about people being afraid of looking racist than anything else. And this also only looked at names, but the people looking at the resumes may have been looking at experience too. What was the experience and qualifications of the people with these names? Were they just applying for jobs? I've applied for jobs that I'm nowhere near qualified for. Because I need a job. And a lot of times you can get hired by not knowing because they'll train you. And guess what? I didn't get interviewed for most of those. And look, podcast 1619, momentum or race forward. Intersectionality matters. Code switch about race. Kimber Crenshaw, I think that was a writer we've seen before from like New York Times or something. That name's familiar. I've seen that before. We've seen her name come up on Monkey in the Morning before. Nonfiction about racism for adults. No, I want some fiction books to read. How to Be Anti-Racist by Ibram X. Kendi. White Fragility by Robin DiAngelo. The Condemnation of Blackness. Dying Whiteness. The invention of race in the European Middle Ages. Okay. The Golden Rhinoceros, Histories of African Middle Ages. Mixed race in Asia, black in Latin America. What is? Oh, Henry Louis Gates. Okay, that explains that. Books for teenagers, because you have a lot of children and teens working there. Fiction. Who cares? Who cares? What does fiction have to do with anything? Fiction for children, middle grade, teen. Ugh. Additional resources. All right, where's that? I want to see the checklist thing. That made me mad. You drop this in chat if you guys want to read it later. Trevor Noah, right? If you guys know a way to download that document, you might want to do that. I suspect this may start to disappear off the internet. And somebody already archived the main article, but unfortunately with the archives, that document won't be in there. I would do more like this, but I'm going to get in trouble for them, quite frankly. This is how you get your channel struck. Let's see if we can find... Oh, yeah, here we go. Here's the white privilege checklist. I need another bottle of water. Hold on. We're up against the clock now because I'll probably have to pee at some point in the near future. Mixed race in Asia. Finally, we get to have the racist Asian conversations, right? They don't talk about the weird anti-Asian stuff going on, because all these attacks on Asians, whenever it always starts out, the first suspect is a nameless white dude, and it ends up being a black guy. Why are black people attacking Asians so much? We can't talk about that. And I know this is a comic channel, but we were just talking about race swapping. Why can't we have the full conversation? But anymore, you can't say anything bad about black people, no matter how innocuous or truthful it is. So let's take a look at our chart here and see what we got. This is going to be difficult to read. I'm sorry. There's not much I could do about that. You need to pee. You have no empty bottle near you. I do, but I'm not going to use it because I don't think you guys want to hear me pee. White privilege. I could take a job with an affirmative action employer without having my coworkers on the job suspect that I got it because of my race. Maybe don't have affirmative action jobs then. Maybe just hire people that you think can do the job and not look at their skin color. I do not have to educate my children to be aware of systemic racism for their own daily physical protection. I don't think anybody does it in the U.S. I am never asked to speak for all the people of my racial group. I wish I could say that. I feel welcome and normal in the usual walks of public life, institutional and social. Everybody should feel welcomed. That sounds like a weird you thing. I don't know why people would think they don't get to walk around in public and... Okay, that's just dumb. This is just stupid. If I have a low credibility as a leader, I can be sure that my race is not the problem. Maybe it's a you problem, lady. Maybe you just suck. Maybe everybody hates you because you're an annoying Karen. Oh yeah, we can't talk about Asian on Asian or black on black crime. No, that's not okay. Who dares stream so early in the morning and not be monkey? I don't know. A monkey's sleeping. He's got like Mother's Day. My mom's in isolation for Mother's Day, so I can't even talk to her. So I don't have to worry about getting up early. That's probably it, Richard. But we can't talk about that either. Part of the problem is cultural. We've got groups of people in some areas, usually low income areas, and it's not necessarily black. It's just people in these areas, because I see it with white people all the time, like trailer parks, that don't value education. You're not going to get anywhere if you don't have at least a high school education. It's a lot harder to get a job without a general equivalency degree or a high school diploma. And If you nowadays, if you don't go to college, it's very difficult to get a job. So if you don't value education, you're going to have a problem finding a job. And it's got nothing to do with your skin color. It has to do with valuing working hard, going to school, and doing well at both your job and at school. Because people do look at that. They want to see what kind of worker you are. I've hired people before. Skin color doesn't matter. Are they going to show up? Are they going to show up on time and do their job? Or are they going to stand around, talk on their phone, and demand $10 an hour? It's got nothing to do with it. Skin tone. Yeah, and if we're so racist, why do all these people want to break into our country? I don't feel normal at Walmart. Those people are scary. Yeah, Walmart has some of the people that look like they're going to eat me. And they're usually big, fat, white people. My Walmart is pretty close. The one I go to is really close to a low-income housing area that's almost entirely white. And they are some of the fattest people on earth. And I'm always afraid they're going to fall on me because they kind of wobble. And I have a fear of fat people crushing me. It's irrational, maybe, but I don't think it is because you haven't seen some of these people. They're really, really fat, and they scare me. I'm a big guy. They might want to eat me. I will sustain them for at least a meal. I was right down the road from the theater shooting at the time. My family was going crazy trying to go. Yeah, that was scary, dude. That was the Batman one, wasn't it? There are places that still only pay minimum wage, but everybody expects to be paid well. When I was a hiring manager for a small place that I worked at, I was the manager of a toy store. There were kids coming in, putting in their applications for a job we didn't offer, and it would have been $7.25 for the job, and they wanted $10 an hour. It was beneath them. Yeah, she should be charming. She should be because tall people do fall a lot. We're very awkward, and our center of gravity is different than you tiny people's. Fair work for fair pay. Exactly. That's how it should be, but that's not it anymore. 1550 is not bad. That's actually pretty good. That's better than what I'm making. I can worry about racism without being seen as self-interested or self-seeking. No, white people I hear talking about racism, it's always about them getting attention. Oh, look how stunning and brave I am. If my day, week, or year is going badly, I need not ask of each negative episode or situation whether it had racial overtones. First of all, that sentence is horrible. And that's dumb. I think you're race obsessed. You sound like somebody that's got some weird racial hangups. All right, let's get to this checklist. Oh, holy crap, that's tiny. Self-assessment. How privileged are you? Check off all statements that apply to you. More checks equal more privileged. Buckle in, kids. This is going to get dumb. All right. Oh, I wish I was retired. That's really the dream, isn't it? All right, well, let's go through these one at a time. First up, I am white. I have never been discriminated against because of my skin color. I have never been the only person of my race in a room. These are really hard to read. I have never been mocked for my accent. I have been mocked for my accent. Southerners used to make fun of me all the time. You got a Northy accent. I've never been told I am attractive for my race. I actually have been told that by an Indian woman. Never been a victim of violence because of my race. I've never been called a racial slur. Hope you're all keeping tabs on how privileged you are. Let's see. I've never been called a racial slur. I've never been told I sound white. The stranger has never touched my hair or asked if it's real. I am heterosexual. What? I've never lied about my sexuality. I've never had to, quote, come out. I have never doubted my parents' acceptance of my sexuality. Well, they're really hung up on my sex life. I've never been called a derogatory slur for homosexuals. If you grew up in the 80s, you got called one a lot. I have never tried to hide my sexuality. I'm always comfortable with showing affection to my partner in public. I've never pretended to be just friends with my significant other. Well, it depends. Am I trying to get a three-way going? I've never been ostracized by my religion for my sexual orientation. I've never been told I would burn in hell for my sexual orientation. Is this the 80s? I've never been told that my sexuality is just a phase. I've never been violently threatened because of my sexuality. I am a man. Okay. I feel comfortable in the gender I was born as. That's not a proper sentence. I still identify as the gender I was born in. Ha! A gender is assigned at birth. We all know that by now. I've never been something to change. I have never tried to change my gender. I have never been denied an opportunity because of my gender. I make more money than my professional counterparts of a different gender. Oh, more wage gap nonsense. I have never felt unsafe because of my gender. I have never been catcalled. I have never been. Maybe you're ugly. Have you thought that? I've never been sexually harassed or assaulted. I've never been raped. I work in a salaried job. Working in a salaried job. Oh my God, fuck off. My family and I have never lived below the poverty line. I live below the poverty line right now. I don't have any student loans. Well, maybe you're just good with money, show off. I've never gone to bed hungry. I went to bed hungry last night. I've never been homeless. I'm technically homeless right now. My parents pay some of my bills. My parents pay all of my bills. I don't rely on public transportation. I buy new clothes at least once a month. Wow, you're rich. I have never done. How many clothes do you need that you buy new clothes every month? I've never done my taxes myself. I have never felt poor. I have never had to worry about making rent. Well, I live in someone else's house, so I technically don't have to worry about rent right now. I have never worked as a waiter, a barista, bartender, or salesperson. Everybody should work one of those jobs because they're awful and it'll make you appreciate your non-public sector job. Because working with the public sucks ass. Public's full of morons. Hey, RVA, how you doing, man? Yeah, everything's in here but the kitchen sink. Hey, boy, you got pretty hair. Yeah, I got catcalled in a prison before, too. It's really uncomfortable because you know they mean it. Yeah, I don't like buying new clothes, mostly because I finally get them broken in to where I like them. Sales sucks. Let's see. I've never had an unpaid internship. I've worked unpaid internships. They blow. And they never really result in anything except doing bitch work for people. All right, let me get a drink of water before we get to the other column here. I've had multiple unpaid internships. Yeah, I've had paid and unpaid ones. They suck. Who cares? Anybody can do those. I went to summer camp. I went to private school. I graduated high school. Anyone can graduate high school. You just have to show up. Seriously, if I got a high school diploma, anyone can. I did no homework for like 2 years, and they gave me a high school diploma. I went to an elite college. Nope. I graduated college. Yep. My parents paid at least some of my tuition. Nope. I had a car in high school. Nope. I've never had a roommate. Dare to dream. I've always had cable internet. Nope. I frequently use other people's. I have traveled internationally. Well, that doesn't mean anything. Chinese people travel internationally. I travel internationally at least once a year. Well, that just means you have money. That's not. I studied abroad. I studied lots of broads. I've never skipped a meal to save money. Dare to dream. I spent spring break abroad. Well, if you saved your money after working a part-time job while you were in school, you probably could save up for a really good vacation. That's just good financial habits. What does that have to do with privilege? Poor people take vacations. I have frequent flyer miles. That just means you have a good credit card. And those things blow anyway. My parents are heterosexual. My parents are both alive. My parents are still married. What if your parents disowned you? Do these still apply as privilege? I do not have any physical disabilities. I do not have any social disabilities. I do not have any learning disabilities. I think I'm getting a learning disability from reading these. I have never had an eating disorder. I have never been depressed. I have never considered suicide. I have never attempted suicide. I have never taken medication for my mental health. If you have mental health problems, you should take medication for it. I can afford medication when I need it. No, I have problems paying for my stuff occasionally. I've never been told I'm overweight or too skinny. I'm told I'm fat. I don't care. I'm fat. Life's hard. I've never felt overweight or underweight or too skinny. I have never been shamed for my body type. I get shamed for it all the time. Hey, you're fat. Yeah, fuck off. I don't care. That implies I feel shame. I consider myself to be physically attractive. Well, it's not my fault I'm good looking. Fuck off. I can afford a therapist. I've used prescription drugs recreationally. That's none of your business, Disney. I've never had an addiction. I've never been shamed for my religious beliefs. I don't think Christians can say that anymore. They get shamed all the time. Lots of YouTube channels shame them. And lots of people on the internet shame Christians all the time. So I think most religions are pretty well targeted. I've never been threatened for my religious beliefs. I have been threatened by a Hindu man once because I'm the white devil who tried to date his daughter. He called me a Christian. I don't know why he did it, but it was weird. I've never been attacked for my religious beliefs. Talk to an atheist sometime. That'll fix itself. There's a place of worship for my religion in my town. There's a Hindu temple not far from me, within reasonable driving distance. So I think they can check that as privilege. Privileged Hinduism. I have never lied about my ethnicity as self-defense. What? People do that? I've never lied about my religion as self-defense. Oh, take that up with Paul. He denied Jesus 3 times. All my jobs have been accommodating of my religious practices. No, I have actually had to threaten a place because they wouldn't give me a religious holiday off that everybody else got off. I am not nervous in airport security lines. Everybody should be nervous in airport security lines. They're going to fondle your junk. I have never heard this statement. You have been randomly selected for secondary passport control. Oh, that's a treat, by the way. If you ever want to get secondary passport control, oh, yeah, they bust out the rubber gloves if they think you're suspicious. Morning to us. I think you may have hit an issue with your definition of dating his daughter. Oh, yeah, his daughter was smoking hot, too. Trying to bang her in the car and then take her through the drive-thru isn't dating. Well, maybe. Hey, she got a meal out of it. So it's a date. I have never been called a... What is that word? That's very tiny. I can't read that one. Nobody has ever tried to save me from my religious beliefs. Atheists do that all the time. I've never been cyberbullied for any of my identities. Cyberbullying is pretty much the norm on Twitter, so or Reddit or any video game ever. I've never tried to distance myself from any of my identities. How many identities do you have? I've never been self-conscious about any of my identities. I think like some of the weird like two-kin, fit-kin type people that are growing out of that probably are embarrassed and a little self-conscious. I've never been questioned. I have never questioned any of my identities. Well, I once saw Captain America question whether or not he should stay Captain America or Nomad, and that was definitely concerning, and he was a white blonde man. I felt privileged. I feel privileged because of the identities I was born with. No, I don't feel privileged. This is stupid. There's only one I couldn't read because there's a word that's really just out of focus here. So I don't know what that one is, but that's the rest of them. This is fucking stupid. We pay you to cyberbully you. Is that still bullying? Yeah, I don't know. Maybe. You get cyberbullied in your own chat. Yeah, I think that goes with streaming in general. Yeah, TOS, you're 100% right. This is a bunch of easily misinterpreted nonsense. Participants were asked to complete this white privilege checklist. Yeah, this is absolutely ridiculous stuff. This is appalling, quite honestly. Disney should be ashamed of themselves for this. A lot of places are doing this stuff now, and it's horrific how quickly this crap is spreading. And I think it's going to get worse. I think we're going to see a lot of people getting fired for phony racial crap that they didn't do or was just misinterpreted. It's destroying people's lives, and people need to call it out and put an end to it. Disney sponsored the creation of 21-day racial equity and social justice challenge and recommended it to employees. The challenge begins with a lesson on systemic racism and tells participants they've all been raised in a society that elevates white culture over others. They do realize that the U.S. was founded by Europeans, right? Like the United States, Europeans founded most of the country. They created the civilizations. The Norse left Greenland. The Chinese left California. The Indians got decimated by a plague and then by white people afterward when they couldn't get along. And that was more culture clash. But the United States was founded by Europeans. Of course, it's a European culture. And Europeans are white. I'm sorry. They're different shades of white. And, different times, different groups have been considered not white. There was a long time where Spanish people from Spain were considered not white. The Italians, the Irish, same things. The Slavs, which is where we get the term slave. So there's not even consistency within the phraseology of whiteness. So this is just broad spectrum crap. They're picking and choosing what they want to call racist, and that's very dangerous. I'm telling you, this is going to create blowback. This is creating the racists they think they're fighting, and it's not going to end well. I think you're going to see a rise of these groups coming back, maybe in different names, but the general principles are going to be the same. There are going to be people that are frustrated with this crap and that have been marginalized, had their lives destroyed by accusations that were tenuous at best. And you're just building resentment and confusion with people, and it's going to get worse. And these movies are not helping, where they're doing all these race swaps and stuff like that. I think this is just the money's going to fall apart. Here's another link to the article. I found this in the archive version. And then you can see on Twitter this guy's name. So if you want to look at this stuff up for yourself, obviously I encourage you to do that. and make your own decisions. I'm just giving you my take. But it's been over 2 hours, and I'm probably going to have to private this stream later. The voices in your head probably do count as identities. I don't know. They didn't really define that on here, which makes this even more vague and difficult to deal with. Not going to lie, I kind of love throwing my ancestors' indentured servitude out there whenever I talk about how they were Irish, right? Yeah, a couple of my ancestors were indentured servants as well. A lot of my ancestors didn't come here until pretty late in the game. Some were here early on in the country. Others were much later. May have been a Democrat, but never a liberal. Yep. I definitely never was personally. Yeah. Yeah, things are crazy. Yeah, I'll probably put this one behind a wall, but I'll send you a link to us because, hey, Serenamantine, sorry, man, you're running a little behind. I'm about to wrap up. But you guys have any questions or anything? Take a couple minutes for that. But yeah, this stuff's getting out of hand, and this shameless pandering crap, it's not going to end well. Have a go and charming. So yeah, I don't know. We went through the checklist, and I can't believe that this is training policy now. That again, you put this toward any other race, and it would be considered absolutely racist. But it's okay to go after white people. This is creating an apartheid state, and I think it's very dangerous stuff. And punishing people based on their skin color because of assumptions and historical wrongs is just as wrong no matter what race you're doing it to. Trump's new app coming online. I've heard something about it, but wait and see how stable it is. I'll probably join it just to join it. Yeah, this is just authoritarianism dressed up in a different way. A lot of this stuff is definitely based around old communist principles that you would see in, I think a lot of it's Maoist, but there's definitely some Stalinistic influence too. And I think they're definitely veiling this in racial terms because classism doesn't work as well in the US because you can move your mobile social strata here. You can become rich, you can become poor. And it's pretty easy to do because we don't have a class system. So the usual Marxist class structure doesn't work here. So they're doing it through racial identity and stuff like that instead. And you can see a lot of the same veiled things like, oh, you can afford a therapist. Well, that extends more from financial than it does from skin tone. But they got to couch it in racial terms because that they've found is more effective than trying to make it a class structure. Most people in the US want to be rich, whether they want to admit it or not. They want to at least be middle class. So that goal of mobility is not something that is easily manipulated here in the States. So they have to do it through other means, which is identity. And they do that through racial and sexual identities. And it's become very effective for some reason, probably because they've infiltrated the education system. Oh, thanks, FTW. I was a little worried about doing this, quite frankly, because it could get my channel in some trouble. I have not danced with the devil in the pale moonlight, despite what he ever says. Yeah, I'll send you a link, RVA. Remind me on Twitter later if I don't send it to you. But yeah, I'll probably have to unlist this when it's done processing. Yeah, after reading that, I probably could use some booze, but unfortunately, I don't drink anymore. Yeah, that's actually why I created this channel, was so that if I said something offensive online, it would blow back on this channel, not the other ones. Because I try and keep stuff very nonpartisan on most of my channels because I don't want to lose the YouTube potential, and the possibility. So yeah, you got to be real careful and dance on eggshells for everything. Have I ever convinced a Spanish Catholic girl to do kinky shit as long as she doesn't get pregnant? No, I did date a chick who was a Latino. Her mom was from Guatemala, I think, and her dad was American. He was a white guy from the States, so she was raised here, but she wasn't Catholic, but she did some real freaky shit. Thanks, Gorbag. But Catholic girls, man, they tend to be kind of dirty. They do some raunchy shit. And they put out pretty quick, from my experience anyway. And that's why the Catholic schoolgirl outfits are so sexy. Philly cheesesteak or French dip? I'm not really big on Philly cheesesteak. It messes with my gut. It's the peppers, I think. So I'd probably go French dip. Oh, wow. Well, I'm surprised so many people are still watching this mess, because this was really disorganized mess. Hollywood hates redheads, and apparently Disney doesn't like white people. So they view you all as a bunch of closet racists, from what I can tell. So yeah, that's disheartening. But this has been fun, and I got some stuff off my chest that really made me mad today. So thank you all so much for coming out. If you caught part of the stream, hit me up in Twitter, and at not at the Do Your Reviewer, do it to the other one, and I'll send you the link when I mark this as unlisted. So, and obviously, I'd appreciate it if you don't spread it around to people that are going to strike my channel. And eventually, I will take it down. Probably, I'll give you a week or so to watch it, and then I'll probably destroy it. So that'll be that. But thank you guys for the donations. It's greatly appreciated. It helps quite a bit, especially with so much craziness going on in my life right now. So thank you all for coming, and I will see you on the next one. Good night, everybody.